Hey legends, welcome along to a brand new video. Now in this one here, I want to give you a little bit of inspiration and motivation to actually, if you want to change yourself for the better, doesn't matter what it is, it's different for everybody, you know, whatever it is for you, you think you can't do it, I'm here to let you know now, if you put your mind to it and put the effort in, you can do whatever the heck you want. Now for me, it was the whole painkiller thing. We've talked about that countless times on this channel. But I was convinced, today is the 24th of April, and I've been convinced for about a fortnight now that the current anniversary for that was on the 25th of this month, which would be tomorrow. But I checked my journal there yesterday and it was actually the 21st. So I'm doing so well been off the painkillers now, I've actually forgotten what date the actual anniversary is of it. So essentially right now I am over the 5-year mark since the last day I had to take medication for the back injury that I have. It's crazy. It's something that I never thought I would be able to do, and the real major reason why I wanted to get off the painkillers was because big podcast listener, and there's a show I listen to, Tell 'em Steve Dave, and they are, if you're familiar with the TV show Comic Book Men, there's a few of them guys that's in this podcast. Big guy with a beard, Brian Johnson, and if you're a Kevin Smith fan, you'll know those guys from Mallrats and Clerks and that as well. So yes, listen to their podcast, and Brian had a similar run-in with pain medication, which led to a deeper problem than what I had. And I was actually listening to an episode of Kevin Smith's Smodcast, I believe he has been interviewed on, and he was talking about getting off the painkillers and his story behind everything, how he got into the problem in the first place. And the big thing, the big turnaround point for me was the fact that when he was eventually clean from the medication and whatever else he was taking, he ended up, it started off with a knee injury for him, like bone on bone rubbing, and by the time he got over his problem with the medication and whatever else he was taking, he eventually got round to getting the operation done on his leg, or on his knee, and they couldn't legally control his pain post-operation because his body was that used to such a high dose of medication that they would have had to go, like the hospital and that would have had to have gone to an illegal dosage to actually control his pain. So that's scary stuff, and that was it for me. I was thinking, oh crap, because I do have a fairly major problem with the back, and I'm very much aware now, even after 5 years, that the slightest wrong movement could really do some serious damage. What I have done essentially is I have worn the disc down at the base of the back through years and years of heavy lifting at work. Of course, I'm a bigger sort of a guy, so whenever you get into the work environment and factories and that sort of thing, if you're a bigger build than most people, you get the heavy manual stuff to do. It's just the nature of the beast. It is what it is. So for years of doing that, I actually, between lifting heavy things and turning back and forth at the waist, I actually managed to wear down a chunk out of a disc at the base of the spine. So what my problem is right now is essentially even sitting down in a chair, I guess right now, technically is doing damage to my back. Because imagine it this way, you've got 2 discs in your spine, I guess here, and then you've got that little fluid pack in between the two, and because there's a chunk of my disc missing towards the front of me, towards my stomach, this side of the spine, when I'm sitting down, the spine is actually compressing more than it really should at the front, and when it does that, of course, this little fluid pack between the two discs starts to bulge slightly. That hits the sciatic nerve, takes out the left leg. I could be out for months at a time when that happens. So you know, it was a scary thing between that podcast, that story of Brian Johnson, and getting a really old school doctor and on one of the last visits to the doctor about it. He looked at the level of medication that I was on, and he freaked out. He's like, why are you in such a high dosage of painkillers at this point? And I'm just like, you know, essentially every time I come back to the doctor about the injury, they just kept upping the medication. So, you know, he was absolutely raging, like one of these old school doctors that actually will do their best to try and help you out as much as they can and actually find the root of the problem and give you something to do to get rid of it instead of just medicating the whole thing. So he was like, right, here's the score. You're a big guy. You're on heavy medication here for this back injury. You're just sitting about, you know, beyond work. I'm just sat on my backside doing nothing, recovering from Friday to Monday to go back to work again. Here's the score. Laid it out on the table for me. What you're looking at right now is a future of, if you don't do something now, if you don't lose the weight and try and build the core muscles to protect your spine a bit more, that's the only way around this bar surgery. You don't want to do surgery on a spine unless it's like last resort. It's a very, very sketchy operation. So he said, what you're looking at right now is retirement with a walking aid, and that's the best case scenario. You're going to need help moving about if the spine gets any worse than what it is. So you need to get in better shape and at least reduce the medication you're on. So that was it. That was the turnaround point. That was 6.5 years ago, and I went out, tried my hardest to cut back on the painkillers. If you know the story, you know the story, but essentially I didn't think I was as bad or as dependent on them until one weekend I ran out of the prescription, and I was stuck for 3, maybe 4 days before I got the prescription refilled again. And by the end of the second day, well, end of the second day, pretty much the start of the second day, you couldn't have sat in the same room with me. I would have fought with my own shadow. So I was determined at this point. That scared me, and I was like, right, I'm going to try and get off these. So started cutting back on them, tried a few days to go as long as I could without the medication, but never actually made a full day until 1.5 years into the process. So 6.5 years ago, 1.5 years worth of absolute hell, you know, trying to cut back on these things. They're basically an opiate, the painkillers I was on, and that's a major problem that people aren't talking about, but very much an addiction. It really is, and that's a disgrace that I got to that point. But suffered through the 1.5 years, and when that 1.5 years was up, finally got to my first day without needing to take any medication for the spine, and here we are, just over 5 years clear, no painkillers in my system whatsoever. I'll try my hardest to not do it anymore. It's not that it was that big a problem that, you know, I feel if something happened and I didn't need to take one of those painkillers again, I could easily take it now, have no problem with it, but I don't want to do it. I'm ranking up the years at this point. 5 years, no small feat. So it is what it is. It's doable, and losing the weight has helped, and personal trainer 3 nights a week, and you know, just regular exercise to try and build up those core muscles. I'm really focused on doing that now, and I'm freakishly close right now. I was a fat kid my whole life, but I'm freakishly close to actually getting my first ever six-pack. That's going to be great. I can see it coming on the sides now. Still a little bit of a stomach there to take away, but you know, I am doing the biggest thing whenever I started training again was those exercises where you're going to put real pressure onto the base of your back. I was like, I'm never going to do this. It's never going to happen. It just can't happen. I'll break in half if I try this. But we started off with like the hex bar, like squatting, like squat lifts, you know, and there's this thing called the hex bar that kind of, there's two handles on it, and it surrounds you and evenly distributes the weight, so you can get down there into like a squat and lift some weight. And I was charging up through that as bad as my back was because of the years of work and heavy lifting. Very strong legs. Like, I've got the legs of a rugby player, and I was described one time as, you're like a rugby player from the waist down and Jabba the Hutt from the waist up. It was just a complete disaster. But the hex bar was good. It was up to 130 or something, lifting that there, and then we progressed on to the straight bar and doing that, and that's the one that I was really worried about, because you're doing the same sort of lift, but you're bending more or less at the waist. You stick your bum out and you bend over and have your arms down just below your knees, and you lift the bar straight up, so you're putting all that pressure onto the base of your back. I am able to do that now up to at least 110 kilograms, and absolutely zero problems of doing sit-ups now. That's something I could never do, even before it hurt the back. Just, you know, just a fat kid, fat lazy bum. So the bit of inspiration that I want you to take from this video was that if you're trying to better yourself, it doesn't matter what it is, you can do it. If you put the effort in, if you're determined, if you're just, don't take any of those, you know, there's a lot of things coming at me before this, classic old school doctor, and people were saying, you know, you can't do this anymore. This is completely out of the question. Not with your back, you can't do that. You still run under that in the work environment these days. That's something that's always going to be there. That's always going to be something that's going to hold me back from getting certain types of work. But, you know, I, right now, even with this injury, genuinely feel right now I'm physically in the best condition of my life, even with this injury. So it's not something that's going to hold people back if they don't let it hold them back. Now, I know a lot of people out there are much worse off than me, and you know, we're all held back in some way, shape or form. There's just, medical histories as a disaster when it comes to the working world and whatnot. And I know there's a few guys out there watching this video that would completely understand where I'm coming from, but you know, if you're determined enough to make something happen, don't let anybody talk you out of doing it. You're more than capable of doing anything you want. Pretty much the vast majority of things that I have done up to this point in my life, it's all stuff that I at one point or another was told that I can't do, and that just brings on the part of my personality where I'm just like, well, I'm going to show you that it can be done, and I'll go out of my way to do it and record a video of me doing it, and let the people see me doing it. So if you have something you want to do, get out there and do it. I'm right behind anybody that's gone through anything like this here, and they're trying to better themselves or better their situation in life. If I can do it, you can do it, and don't let anybody stop you from doing it. It's all down to you and nobody else.